Hello, my name is Sarah, and this evening I am starting a ghost story set in Edinburgh. It's called Secret City by Jan Andrew Henderson, and this is chapter 1, The Drummer Boy. Charlie Wilson was a quiet boy. His parents moved around a lot, so he didn't have very many friends. He just kept himself to himself. He spent a lot of time sitting in his room playing with his PlayStation or trying to beat his own high score on some computer game. When he grew up, he wanted to be either a computer programmer or an air traffic controller, because then he'd get paid a lot to sit and press buttons all day. When I was young, I was out having some real adventures, instead of fooling around with some television game, Charlie's father said. When you were young, the television hadn't been invented, Charlie replied. Playing these games, I can have totally amazing adventures. I can become anyone I want. And his father sighed and nodded because secretly he thought that didn't sound like too bad an idea. He had no idea that Charlie Wilson was soon to have a totally amazing adventure, and that in the process he would become an explorer, a magician, a detective, and a grave robber. One day, just before the term ended, Charlie came home to find his mother doing handstands in the hall. Not that this was anything unusual, for his parents were both professional acrobats. This was a career that Charlie found highly embarrassing, so he pretended to everyone that they worked in a bank. Charlie didn't approve much of his parents. "Guess what?" his mother said upside down, her long hair brushing the hall floor. "You've found a new way to sweep?" "Ah, very funny." His mother gracefully flipped herself back on her feet. "We've been asked to perform at the Edinburgh International Festival up in Scotland. There's a whole show there dedicated to physical performance." "You mean it's a circus?" Charlie sighed. "Much, much classier than that. Not an elephant or a clown in sight." Charlie's father stuck his head out to the living room door and waggled his eyebrows. "This might even be our chance to get famous." Charlie had never actually heard of such a thing as a famous acrobat, and he certainly didn't want his parents to be the first. They would be absolutely insufferable. And he was even more horrified to learn that they were going to take him to Edinburgh with them. "Well, we certainly can't leave you behind, tempting though it may be." His father patted the boy on the shoulder. "It'll do you good to go somewhere different, bring you out of your shell." "What do you think I am?" said Charlie grumpily. "A mollusk?" "You'll love it," said his mother, doing a somersault, knocking over the umbrella stand. "We'll only be there for 3 weeks, and it's the biggest arts festival in the world. There are street performers, jugglers, music, comedy, plays. And all the bars stay open until 3 in the morning, said his father. "Not that that makes any difference to anything, mind you. We can do family things together for a change." His mother ruffled the boy's thick blonde hair before noticing that her nail varnish wasn't quite dry. "When we're not performing, of course, and how would you like to learn to juggle?" "I would rather chew my own arm off," said Charlie, rubbing the pink sticky patch left on his head. Didn't matter what he said, his parents took him to Edinburgh anyway. In Edinburgh, the city council had shut down a narrow disused street in an old part of the city and erected a huge fiberglass tent in the middle. It stretched from a derelict concert hall on one side of the road to a set of abandoned tenements on the other. Tenements was an old Scottish word for a very tall building. This was to be the special theatre where Charlie's parents and other acrobats would perform. 2 workmen stood watching the last of the scaffolding being removed. One was barely out of school, pale and scrawny, with so much acne he looked as if he was blushing. The other was nearly at a retiring age, his skin brown and cracked as an old door, and his thin white hair matted with the plaster dust. "Just like a circus big top, eh, Jim?" the younger one said, "only smaller." Jim nodded. He had long ago run out of things to say to his companion. "Hey, you hear about Harry?" the teenager continued. He seemed to dislike the silence. "Him and the lads were using a wee cellar at the bottom of those deserted flats for their breaks. Nice and cosy, eh? And out of sight of the gaffer," he added with a wink. Jim sighed and leant on his spade. The youngster took this as a sign of interest and kept going. He was fooling about with one of these pneumatic drills and knocked a hole right through the cellar wall. The youngster sniggered. Guess what? The lads said that they found a tunnel behind it. The older man didn't seem surprised. I've heard stories about tunnels under the streets ever since I was wee. When was that then, 19 oatcake? Ha ha! The teenager's snorted laugh turned into a fit of coughing. He pulled a cigarette from behind the greasy ear and lit it. There's a famous legend in Edinburgh, the more experienced man continued without a change of expression, about a bunch of soldiers fixing up the dungeons in Edinburgh Castle who found a hidden tunnel. I didn't hear about that. This was 200 years ago. Oh, the youth thought for a moment. I wasn't around then. Jim sighed and continued. The army wanted to know where the passage went, but it was awfully small, so they took a wee boy, gave him a drum to bang and chucked him in. The lad crawled into the darkness, and the soldiers followed on top, right out of the castle, down the main street. What happened? After about half a mile, the drumming stopped. Maybe he went on strike. Nobody knows what happened, the older man shrugged. The army decided just to forget the whole thing. They hid the tunnel again, and everyone thinks it was just a big daft story. Jim held out a warning finger. But late at night, if there's no traffic about, you're supposed to hear phantom drumming coming from below this very street. Loaded nonsense, the teenager said cheerfully. Let's go and get a mug of tea. All legends have a grain of truth in them, lad, said Jim. Well, we'll find out soon enough, the boy said, grinning. We told the council about the tunnel, and it turns out that there's no official records about it, so they've offered us overtime to have a wee dig under the rest of the cellars, see if we can find anything else interesting. That's a bit odd, eh? Jim said thoughtfully. These buildings are almost 200 years old. They must have known about the tunnels, but they still built on top of them. There's no records, you say. Guy from the council said that they got destroyed about the same time as the tenements went up. The boy hefted his spade onto a skinny shoulder, impatient to get his mug of tea. Nothing left but legends. The old man looked up at the deserted windows, dark and empty as soulless eyes. He scratched his stubbled chin and frowned. It's like somebody long ago wanted what's under this street forgotten. That's the end of chapter 1. I hope you're going to enjoy this one. And guys, please wash your hands. It's really, really, really important. Now I want you to go into your bed, snuggle up, give yourself a great big huge cuddle because you deserve it. See you soon.